Hey, this is Susan Blanton with the Create Happy Now podcast, and welcome back to the Intuitive Masters of Happiness series. Want to find out why strengthening your intuition is so important? How about enhanced creativity, increased self-knowledge, better decision-making, greater physical health, improved mental well-being? Well, these are some of the things that you might enjoy when you have a strong intuition. So stay tuned every Wednesday as we feature one guest interview from the Intuitive Masters of Happiness Conference held in February of 2023. We had such an awesome turnout, we wanted to make available all 20 audio versions of the interviews on the Create Happy Now podcast and YouTube channel. Now, if you want to watch these interviews rather than just listen to the audio version, you can download all 20 interviews today if you want to have them in your own library for $27.95, which is $20 off the VIP access package that was offered in February. You can go to my website, createhappynow.com, and go to the events tab to get your download today. Before I get to my next guest, for those of you who struggle with quieting your mind and want to be able to do it faster and have more happiness, abundance, peace, and purpose, and say yes to life every day, I want to remind you that I have a new meditation app coming out this summer that is designed to do just that. I also have a new meditation YouTube channel. Both are called Create Happy Meditations. If you would like to be on the waiting list for the app, go to my website and click on the Meditation app tab and sign up today. Meanwhile, like and subscribe to my meditation channel. Last week, Theo Van Dort and I talked about why it is crucial now to strengthen your intuition. My next guest is Geoffrey Hoppe. Geoffrey Hoppe is founder of the Crimson Circle and messenger for Tobias, Adamus Saint-Germain and Kuthumi Singh. The Crimson Circle started in 1999 and has grown into a global organization with the purpose of providing guidance to people going from awakening into realization. He and his wife Linda now spend their time between the Crimson Circle Connection Center in Boulder, Colorado area and the Crimson Circle Retreat Center in Kona, Hawaii. Their website offers a free library of messages at www.crimsoncircle.com. Here is the director's cut, getting you down to his juicy wisdom about what does happiness mean for humans and what it really looks like when you have finally discovered how to be happier. Guys, Geoffrey, it's so glad to have you back. I know you were on my podcast a couple of years ago, and I'm so glad to connect with you again, and so excited to have the listeners have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about what wisdom you have to share. And what I really want to kind of dive into is people are searching for happiness, right? But what does that really look like? I mean, when you finally achieve happiness, are you just, euphoric? Are you in nirvana? Are you enlightened? Or what's more of the realistic expectation of what we're trying to achieve when we're trying to find happiness?
And by the way, thank you, Susan, for doing the conference and for bringing all these people together. And I think the topic is really, really good. It's like, what is happiness? How do you find it? And, my experience is that happiness it's elusive a lot. It can also be incremental. As you go through life, and there could be days of you're happy and wonderful, other days where it kind of crashes, and you find how deep the bottom is. So it's one of those kind of concepts, and how do you find that happiness? And you can find degrees of happiness in other people, in your love relationships. That's some of the greatest happiness that there is on the planet. A lot of people find happiness through work and through success at work, or the number of degrees that they have, from university. Other people find it through a hobby that they love or helping other people. And all those are wonderful, but they tend to be kind of temporary at times. You can have a great relationship with a lot of happiness that ends up not so good, in the long run. You can acquire things. You get a new car. and you could be really happy for a little while, and that new car smell and driving it down the road, and but the car gets old, and gets run down at a certain point. So it's very elusive. What I've found in my own life is that those are kind of incremental happinesses, but then when they start fading away or changing, then I would be trying to find the next happiness, on the next street corner, down the road somewhere. And it was like almost like a dog chasing, its tail,
Like
and it can drive you. Exactly. And so, and it finally, like, in the work I do, particularly with channeling Adamus Saint-Germain, I finally learned that the real happiness for me was connecting to my divinity, my soul. And that's, that kind of takes precedent over everything else, because then suddenly, first of all, I wasn't chasing dreams anymore. I wasn't chasing, like, a new house, a new car, anything like that. And it was more like there was an overall feeling of contentment and kind of peace, and it kind of, everything else kind of didn't make a whole lot of difference anymore. But the issue is that even in that connecting with your divinity, it's not like it lands on you all at once and boom, your life has changed. It's also by degree, and you got your bad days still, but you have a better perspective of why it's a bad day, because you're too busy, you're working too hard, or whatever, or just mass consciousness, but I can really give you a bad day. But slowly, you begin to bring in more of that divinity, and there's, I don't even want to call it happiness, but it's being really content and appreciative, having gratitude, and loving yourself. So to me, that's really an important component.
Right. And I think that the bad days end up being easier, because I think you realize,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm having a bad day today, but that doesn't mean tomorrow and the next day are going to be bad. I will have better days after today. It's just today is a dip, it's just like the weather. Oh, it's colder today. That doesn't mean it's going to be cold like this forever. It will warm up, right? So I think sometimes people think,
Right. Right.
when it's something happens and it's horrible, they think that life is going to feel like that for a long time. And when you finally get in this connection and you realize that the external isn't really the effector of our happiness, you just kind of observe it. Well, this was kind of a low. It'll be high tomorrow, but it doesn't matter. My happiness isn't going to depend on it. We're not going to sink as low as we would.
And then
we're depending on it.
Yeah, and there's not that desperate feeling then. Okay, we're just going through something here. It could be a lot of different things. The feeling of being lost, it really starts going away. You're not really lost anymore. You just realize that you're a kind of sea of mass consciousness, other people. And so often you start realizing that you're oftentimes taking on their stuff, whether it's a family member, whether it's just mass consciousness. I mean, this has got to be one of the craziest times ever. I mean, ever to be on the planet. Things are changing so quickly at unprecedented rates. Everything from technology to finance. I mean, the environment, everything is changing. And if you step back and you realize, hey, this really isn't mine. I mean, these are external things happening, and they can make a day seem pretty bad sometimes, but ultimately you realize, hey, that's not mine. And within myself, I'm actually doing pretty well. Still going through the bad days. My toughest thing in my life is just taking on too much, working too hard. We're running at a fast pace right now with Crimson Circle. There's so much going on, and then I get worn out. But then I realize, well, I might be tired and worn out, but I'm still pretty happy.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about real happiness. Yeah. And I push myself because I love doing that sometimes. But also, I learned that once you come into this true connection with your divinity, the things that I had been working for, paying the mortgage and all the rest of those things, paying the bills, suddenly they're just there. I mean, just the abundance is there, and just the flow is there. The right people show up at the right time. It just becomes so much easier, and then it caused me to realize I was chasing these things, for so much of my life, or just trying to, keep ahead on the treadmill. And they're actually natural gifts from your divinity, from your soul, and it's all there. You don't even have to work at it, actually.
And abundance shows up in different ways now. Instead of all the things you were trying to create abundance, then now you're seeing and appreciating the abundance that's coming in so many different avenues and gifts and amounts, like in ways that you never imagine.
Yeah, and it could be financial, which is always nice to have. I mean, Adamus, talks a lot about abundance. As a matter of fact, on our website, there's a whole like a mini class he does, and he's like, if you're going to stay on the planet as a master, you better be abundant, because first of all, you need it, and secondly, people don't want to see a poor guru or master, on the planet. They want to know that you've actually done it, that you can manifest these things in your life. And it was funny. I was in business for many, many years. And once I quit that business modality and did what I loved to do, then it was just there. Prior to that, I was always chasing it. And all of a sudden it was just there, and it just shows up, and you really actually don't have to work for it. And a lot of people they'll fight you for their lack of abundance. I mean, they will insist on it, and they say, well, I didn't come from a good family. I didn't have a good education. Nobody ever gave me anything. I can't get a break. Those are excuses that you're just giving yourself. But, my own personal life, I didn't grow up in a great family. I never went to college. I worked hard, but I had that attitude too, is, I can never catch a break. And then once I let all that go, open the doors, to abundance, and then it was there. And the abundance does kind of fill in part of that happiness factor. I mean, it makes it easier to enjoy it. Adamus is always saying things like, if you're going to fly, you take an airplane somewhere, go first class. Otherwise, I mean, you're not a master. You're still in that old modality. And it's not about trying to impress anybody, but it's about taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. And to not be so attached to certain outcomes. I think that's a block, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it is a block, and it's a limitation, because if you're attached to an outcome in your life, or with portions of your life, you're basically mentally trying to predetermine what it should look like. And I had a really hard time with that when Adamus came in and said, if you have goals, drop them. If you do your affirmations, your visualizations, he said, get over it quickly, because it's all mental. And what happens, you let those go, and much greater things can come into your life that you would have never anticipated. Much, much greater. And then you're like, why didn't I do that before? And just let that natural flow come in, rather than getting my human self involved. And I set a goal and I don't make it, and then I'm disappointed, and I set a new goal. Again, it goes nowhere. But it was hard for me. I'm a Virgo, so to let go of goals and those type of things was a little difficult. Like with our company, we don't do any budgeting, long-term planning, or anything like that. We know better. You do your best at what you do, but then you allow even greater things to come in, and they do.
Yeah, you follow your inspirations
instead of passion.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you make a plan ahead of time, and then you maybe miss an opportunity because you weren't looking for it, because it's not on your goal list, it's totally in left field, and so you pass it by. Or if you do, then it might snuff it. It might hinder hinder you. So I totally get that. And so what is the best way to kind of there's a goal, and then there's, I mean,
Right.
you need to know where you want to go, right?
Right.
But you necessarily don't have to put a price tag to it, or
Right.
a certain timeline.
Or
But
over define it. Yeah.
right, so you could have that, it could happen in a certain time period, but you basically want to know, how do you want to feel, right, at
Right.
the end of the goal,
Yeah.
whatever that
Exactly.
ends up being.
No, you hit it on the head. It's really, now you're, instead of a goal, you're about choices, but not little tiny choices. Like, how do you want to, how do you want your consciousness to be? You know, do you enjoy? Do you want happiness? Do you want fulfillment? Those type of things, rather than, I want to feel highly energized every day. That's okay, but where do you want your consciousness to be at? And if you really start feeling into it, it actually gets a little confusing, because your mind jumps in and, should I feel like this? Should I feel like that? And then you settle into it and you realize, like, for instance, I mean, a life of joy. It's a pretty good word. Life of joy. And you feel what that feels like, but you don't limit yourself just to that feeling. Say, okay, here's the beginning point. What does it feel like to have a really joyful life? And then you basically let that expand, and you let your own energies then serve you in bringing that into your life. So you're absolutely right. It's more of a choice. How do you want to feel? How do you want your consciousness, your vibrance to be? And without overly defining it, you don't have to.
And how do you think that, because I noticed this happened to me a lot. I was very much a people pleaser and worried about what other people thought, whether I attained a goal or didn't attain a goal. I was very goal oriented. I mean, God love my parents. They did their best. I mean, that's what everybody was doing. You get an education, you do your best in school, and then get married, have a family, and all that. But I kept I was doing all of that to please the system, to please my parents, to
Right.
please my teachers, to please society, that, oh, well, I'm doing well because I did all the things that was expected of me, but that wasn't happiness. And
Right.
I think when I finally just dropped what I felt like everybody else expected of me, and I did what I felt like I want to do that fit me, and be okay with someone not liking what I'm doing, or
Yeah.
someone not liking the direction I'm going, or maybe the beliefs that I have changed to serve me.
Hmm.
When I let go of trying to please them, that's when it was tough. I'm not saying it was easy, but
No, it's
it
tough.
got easier and easier the more I did it, and the happier and
Right.
happier I got.
Yeah. And then you also probably started realizing too that, first of all, you could never really truly, make others happy. And actually they were a lot happier with you when you were yourself anyway, instead of being a ass kisser, people pleaser. They could kind of see through that. But it's a big one too, in talking about, how do you want to feel? How do you want your life to be without having to architect every little piece? But I would say the vast majority of people will make it dependent on other people. I want my kids to do well. I want the world to do well. And Adamus is very clear about that. He said the moment you now entangle with somebody else, you're defeated before you even start, because you're no longer really doing it for you. And we're so conditioned to doing things for others, and which is great, but you got to take care of yourself first. And that's really one of the tenets of happiness in your life. If you're always taking care of others, you're not taking care of you, then you kind of starts to suffocate or to shrivel away. And, as so many of your listeners have already learned in their lives, trying to find your happiness through other people, it just doesn't work. Because are they really going to appreciate everything you've done for them? Are they really going to be grateful? And it goes back to the old thing, you get in an airplane and they're doing the safety demonstration thing. And they say, in case of an emergency, which I don't like hearing those words, but in case of emergency, the mask drop down, put the mask on yourself first before you take care of little kids or whoever around you. You've got to take care of yourself. And when you really come to a point of self-love and allowing your energy to serve you, then like being there for others is easy, natural, but you got to take care of yourself. And I think that's one of the greatest hindrances to happiness. People make it dependent on somebody else.
I think you made a huge point there where you definitely need to take care of yourself first. And it's not selfish.
No.
It's not vain. But if you have filled your cup up first, then you can serve others. You can't serve others from an empty cup.
Right. No, you can't. And then you keep trying and it doesn't work. And then you exhaust yourself. All your energy is zapped out of you and you really can't. And then you're really unhappy again. So, no, it's not selfish. It is being self-full, mindful of yourself. And you got to take care of your body, your spirit. I mean, so many people don't even take that into consideration. But how do you take care of your own spirit? And when you come to that point, we kind of call it the point of no more. You're like, no more. I'm not going to keep repeating those old patterns in my life. And you get very emphatic or maybe even angry about it. No more. I'm not going to let others walk all over me. I'm not going to keep this life of constant lack of abundance, of constant loss of love in my life, bad relationships, no more. And, when you get to that point, and it's like, it's an absolute, I'm done with it, no more, screw off everybody. Something happens. I mean, it really triggers something inside of you. And that's actually kind of a big part of awakening. And suddenly, your soul hears that, feels it. And it's like, good, finally, my human self is saying no more. Now I can come in. Because instead of that human self thinking they're going to take care of everything and manage everything and struggle, good, now they're listening. And now the divinity, the soul can come in. And suddenly you realize at a certain point, I'm not alone. I'm with my soul. The master is coming into my life and we're together, but it's me. And that point of no more is so really important. Most of the time people are like, yeah, you might get tired of something or irritated. But then you're like, well, we'll get over it. We'll keep going the same way. Yeah. And trying to doing the same thing, day after day after day, expecting a different outcome.
Isn't that
That's
insanity?
The definition of insanity. Yeah, that's insanity. I think that was Einstein that first said that. He was pretty smart. But, you hit that no more point. And when you really mean it, I'm not just kind of like, well, I'm not so happy with that, but no more. And that's when things really shift in your life. And some of the shifts are tough. People go out of your life. I lost my job in a company that I had started, and I was one of the founders. Best thing that ever happened to me, because I would have persevered. I would have kept going, even when I knew it was time to leave. And when I got released from my own company, that's when I started doing this. And I never expected it, but that's when all of this started happening with Tobias and Crimson Circle and everything. And but the real bottom line was the transformations in me. I'd said, I'm not going to do the old way anymore. I came into this lifetime to do something very special, and damn it, I'm going to do it.
Exactly. And I think, what you said earlier, this is our body, this is our consciousness. I mean, this is, you said people are going to come and go, right? But wherever we go, there we are.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to understand that this is who we are in this lifetime. And this is all we have: things, people, places, what we have in our bank account. All of that's going to come and go, but
Yeah.
this is always going to remain a constant.
Yeah.
So if this is what's always going to remain a constant, then take care of it.
Right.
And then wherever you go, whatever you have is gravy, right?
It is. I mean, it really is. And I know it's oversimplifying it. And some of your viewers might be thinking, "Oh, but you don't understand." I can compare stories with anybody, and it's like, no, I really do understand. But it comes to the point. I guess I'll go back to this no more. I'm not going to keep going lifetime after lifetime with the same old patterns. We incarnate back into our same families most of the time. You finally say no more, and it changes everything, including the relationship with the body. And suddenly what you're doing is making space for your, what we call your light body, your free energy body to come in, which goes far beyond the biological body. And suddenly now you start to develop a relationship with your light body, with your divinity. Everything changes. The difficult part, though, I have to put this little note in here. The difficult part is you start going from awakening into realization, and it's an interesting journey. And what happens is you become so content, pleased, happy with yourself, but suddenly you're also becoming more sensitive. Suddenly you become aware of the world around you, and you realize that, or in my case, I realized, oh, it's like I have a hard time going to an airport, when I'm traveling. I have a hard time in a crowded store. I have a hard time around the kind of the energy noise of other people. I have to have a lot more time to myself. I live up in the mountains, far away from 35 minutes from the nearest store, but I need that because I've got to have my space for me. And I get affected by mass consciousness, but if I have my space, my getaway, I can deal with it, when I need to.
And you definitely feel more calm being on your own. I mean, that's another pattern that I've seen is, I feel like I was definitely happier as a child, and I had a lot more comfort just going off and just entertaining myself. And then when I was a people pleaser and worried about happiness and constantly, battling depression, I wanted to be around people. I didn't want to be alone. I was afraid people were going to leave me or not like me or, be mad at me or whatever. And so I was constantly seeking that approval and validation of who I was. And I didn't want to be by myself. I didn't want to entertain myself. And so now that I have come to that point where I'm not really caring what people think, I want to do me, then I love to do me, and I'm okay by myself. I'm not worried about when I'm going to see the next person. I mean, I do enjoy people, but I'm not seeking validation from them to give myself my own worth.
It's liberating, because you can be with people when you want, but, I really enjoy my time to myself. And then, I'm with people a lot, but I really love that time to myself. And that's when I kind of commune with my spirit, and like we don't have these long talks, that's kind of a human perception. When communing with my spirit, my soul, it's just feeling its presence, and we don't need to chat a lot. I just feel that presence that's there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a lot of times people are afraid to get quiet. They're afraid what they're going to find.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and the quiet isn't quiet.
Yeah. Right. Because there you are.
But, and it's very true because, sometimes people don't like being in the dark or being alone because it's really not quiet. that's suddenly when all their aspects, all these parts of themselves jump up and, start the harassing them. No, it's not fun at all. So they fill that in with other people, but you come to the point when you really you're just communing with yourself. And it's such a beautiful thing. That, to me, that's happiness.
Well, that's why I think a lot of people go on silent retreats for
Yeah.
a week or weeks and come out profoundly different, especially not afraid to be alone, and they have realized what's truly important to them, and that
Yeah.
is, their themselves,
Mhm.
and that connection that they
Yeah.
usually find during that moments of silence. So,
Yeah.
well, gosh, Geoffrey, I am so glad that you were able to join us today. Can
Thank you.
you share with the listeners what you've got going? How can they find you?
Sure. Yeah. Come to crimsoncircle.com, Crimson Circle. And gosh, we have 20 years worth of messages from Adamus, the guy I used to channel, Tobias, Kuthumi, Singh. We have a huge free library we do a monthly webcast, and it's all free. There's other products too you can buy, but actually most of the stuff is right there in the free product. So just check it out. And I would say the biggest thing is people go there and say, geez, where do I start? Well, just start anywhere. You'll be guided. Yeah. So it's a big website. It's international. Just most of the materials are translated in, 15, 20 different languages. So whether you're an English speaker, German, Japanese, or whatever, it's all right there.
That's great. That's great. You guys have definitely got to check that out. It's very, very enlightening. And so please go to crimsoncircle.com and check out all the free stuff and just start. That's how I did it.
Yeah.
And it's then you can't stop because it's just so mind-blowing, awakening. It just really, I loved it. I still love it, So
kind of our niche, what we really do is we work with people from that point of their awakening, which is not a religious thing. It's much deeper than that. But from the point of awakening, and then on that long road to what we call realization, and it's a tough road. But the materials talk about it, what you go through, why you're going through it, why the planet is going through what it is right now. And it's the materials are very comforting and provide great guidance.
It's great.
And Adamus Saint-Germain is a character. He's not the typical closed-eyed, reverent. I mean, he is a character.
He's a straight shooter. So, he tells you like it is. No,
he is. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on the show, and appreciate it very much. And again, to all the listeners, just check out Crimson Circle, see if you like it.
Yep, definitely. Well, thank you so much.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Always good to work with you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.